Good morning to this press conference, the first one of this year, and of course from my side and our side, Happy New Year to you, and welcome to this week's press conference, and I hand over to our Group President, Udo Bullmann.
Yes, good morning everybody, and also from my side, Happy New Year everybody. It will be an exciting one. We say this always, but this year deserves it that we underline it. And I wish you health, satisfaction in whatever you try to achieve, and success, of course, in your private life as well as professionally. This week starts with, or this week contains a lot of important issues. One of those, indeed, being the dominant one. I think we do not have to guess what I'm talking about. But you allow me, in a political as well as in a personal remark, to start this conversation today with expressing our great sadness about the killing of Pavel Adamovich, the mayor of Dansk, this proud and historical city. Was an outpost of what we call European values, and the murdering under circumstances you have realized is a disgrace, is an attack on all true Europeans. We have to say that loud. This is not a Polish issue, this is a European issue. If somebody who was a brave defender of human rights, the LGBTI community, the refugees, we have now this debate going on in these minutes in the plenary, Rescue at Sea, and colleagues mentioned his role, that he took hundreds and thousands of people to Dansk to have a different reality on the ground than in many, many countries. National politicians try to exemplify. It can only be praised. He will be with us, and we will never forget people like him. The dominant issue today, of course, is Brexit, historical vote. This is also, I guess, your main interest in our conversation today and tomorrow morning. We are very well aware of what is going on. We are waiting for the decision in the House of Commons, and of course people will talk to each other, will inform the groups afterwards, and we have the occasion to discuss with our Sherpas, with the leaders of this European Parliament in these negotiations, and with Michel Barnier as well. And then we will see what this night is going to bring. Let me repeat that this European Parliament always tried to be useful, to be helpful, to be solid in its political assessments, and that we accompanied Michel Barnier, whose work we are going to praise, because he did a good job. There is a way. This is not the best of all worlds. What is on the table is not easy to swallow for all sides, but there is a way the majority could take. I have severe doubts that Theresa May is able to mobilize this majority, and if this is not feasible, we never ever agreed to Brexit. We never ever said, the Socialists and Democrats, that is a good idea, that is a splendid future for the UK. No, we regret that, and then in a situation of crash, we are deeply convinced that the British people should have the opportunity to assess the situation in the one way or in the other, because it's their turn in their sovereignty. It's not on us, it's on them to decide where they would like to go. What happened in this House, and you saw that on the initiative of my friend and colleague Joseph Weidenholzer, some 130 parliamentarians presented their views also to the British population, to the citizens, by expressing their regrets and by hoping that we could also further build the European house together in a way in which that is needed. We will welcome the Romanian presidency. Here, lots of tasks ahead of them. They have to manage many files at the very end of this mandate. We wish them luck. There is challenges like not only the Brexit, the MFF, the Article 7 procedures, Hungary and Poland, the failures of the Austrian, shortcomings and failures of the Austrian presidency do not really ease the job for Romanian government. But we are in contact, the Commission is in contact, and we hope that things can be achieved. Of course, the Romanian government is aware of critical discussions that point out to the domestic field of policies, and we express our wish and our request and hope that we will see a full implementation of the Venice Commission's recommendations. In this way, I understand, has the Prime Minister already pointed to, and I understand that this is also her political understanding. We will welcome Pedro Sanchez, a good friend of us as well. He is not only a Spanish leader who Spanish population is now looking to, and the first achievements. He has also took the chance in the recent months to give an example for Europe. If you see his role in the Mediterranean, if you see his role in the international conferences in Marrakech, in Katowice, then you can see that a country which is very important for the European Union comes back to the old strength and fills the role in the European family in a very appreciated way. So the colleagues will be keen to listening to him, to hear and discuss with him his prospects for the European Union and its further development. I only mention additionally, if you look at his way to structure his government, the amount of extremely qualified people, especially women, the women participation in the government is without any example, and the way in which he combined complicated matters like energy and environment in one chapter of responsibility, the Sustainable Development Agenda under one umbrella of a special commissioner with high responsibilities is exactly what we also pursue here in our group in the Socialists and Democrats. So we will welcome a friend who is politically closest to us as it could be. Last remark, of course we are happy and proud to celebrate 20 years Euro. That is to be done in a formal sitting today. But we also tell our colleagues here, our collaborators and competitors, also the citizens in Europe, this is the group, the Socialists and Democrats, always have been advocating that we have to put the project of the Euro on a firmer footing. And we need powerful instruments, a new setting of the institutions, a real European economic government and a budget for the Eurozone to stabilize and to invest in the future. That are my focus points of this week. I'm more than happy to receive your comments and your questions.
Thank you. Catherine, you go first. Please indicate your name and medium. Merci.
Hello. Catherine Fior, EU reporter. Mr. Bullmann, can I just ask you about the vote that's going to take place today in Westminster? It does look as if Theresa May is going to lose that vote at this moment. And one of the options is for her to return, that she may return to Brussels to ask for further negotiation. Do you think there's any room for movement on the EU's position? I mean, some of the areas that are mentioned are a free trade agreement, somehow negotiated and by the 29th of March, I'm not sure how you do that, and by setting an end date to the backstop. So I was wondering, do you think that there is room for manoeuvre for Prime Minister Theresa May? Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Of course, we always have to think about next steps. If the most probable, as it stands now, solutions are going to occur. My guess is, and this is also my information, that the European institutions are prepared for the touchdowns in Brussels and are prepared for additional conversations, and of course they stand ready to doing so. But you also have seen the last-minute exchange of letters in which Theresa May argued for additional space, and the European institutions here, President Tusk and the President of the Commission, Juncker, answered, yes, the political intention is clear. We do not intend to use on purpose this backstop. This is the crucial question. We do not intend to put the UK in an endless situation of being part of the common market and its rules if the UK doesn't like this situation. And we will do everything to replace the transitional period by a new agreement, a new neighborhood agreement. It's a decent one for both sides. This is what they say, and this is, I think, what they mean. But is this a guarantee that the transitional period only lasts for a certain kind of months? No, that cannot be given, because you do not know how the negotiations in Chapter 2 are going to develop, and nobody will be able to give that to Theresa May. So we will be always able to exchange our best intentions on the further processes, but if the UK is seeking a guarantee to sell back home, it will only last 6, 7, 8, 10 months. Nobody can give that.
Short follow-up, please.
Very short follow-up. Are you willing then to accept that no deal is more than a possibility if there is no room for manoeuvre?
There is room for maneuver, but it would be unfair to put our assessment in the place of the assessment of the House of Commons. There is democratic sovereignty in Europe, there is democratic sovereignty in our nation states, and now the House of Commons has to speak, the British nation has to speak. We see a divided nation. I have my political assessment, I have severe doubts that in the given situation you would find a Brexit majority in the population of the UK, because this is the situation in which the people see the bill. Not that crazy narratives they were told about, they see the reality, and more they see in the reality, they will question themselves whether that was a good deal, the majority to put for the Brexit. There is possibilities also in the command of the UK government. Of course, you always can withdraw Article 50 and reflect and come back to Article 50 once you have a solution, a proper solution. Of course, you can ask the European Union to postpone the decision and to ask for additional time in which process and negotiations can be conducted. The precondition for the acceptance is that 27 member states will agree to that. My guess is the European side will agree as soon as the UK is able to make clear what is going to change. In a situation like that, you need stability and democracy. And if a government was out for get back control, this was the slogan, you only can get back control if you ask your people now. In which way you're doing that, whether you go to new elections, whether you go to a second referendum, it's up to the British people. But my guess is that if Brits are asking for additional time, it will be even more convincing to the Europeans when the Europeans can see under what conditions this precondition of stability is going to be achieved in the United Kingdom.
Okay, next question. We go left. Lara, please. Please indicate your name and medium.
Hello, this is Lara Malvesi from the Spanish newswire EFE. I wonder if you regret that the Labour Party has not played a bigger role and has speak with a stronger voice to ask for a second referendum. Thank you.
Well, we are listening with interest to the conversations in the Labour Party, and of course we are having daily contacts with our friends from Labour. But we see also different voices. Keir Starmer has a different role and a different interpretation. The shadow minister for Brexit, if you talk to him, I guess he would be happy if you call him the shadow minister for the Remain instead of shadow minister for the Brexit. And he was the one to open up the debate in the conference of the Labour Party in Liverpool in a way that the Labour Party agreed, as I said, that they are out for asking the people. And that their position is, yes, we would like to see a new election in the UK, but we do not exclude a second referendum if situation is that threatening and unclear that the Brits themselves have to clarify again where they stand. So I think the last word is not said already on the Labour side, and there will be ongoing discussions.
We go back to the right. Yes, please, Friedrich.
Thomas Friedrich, Springer Medien. Schätzen Sie es persönlich als einen Fehler ein, dass...
I'd like to ask whether you think that there's been a degree of failure on the part of Jean-Claude Juncker, Martin Schulz and Donald Tusk in their response to Cameron. Do you think that it was wrong to say that they wouldn't participate in the pre-campaign for the referendum at the time? And if you think there's an extension of Article 50, what sort of implications do you think that would have on the EU elections? Well, with your permission, I'll respond in our common language, German. So other colleagues who don't follow German might like to use their headphones. So, Mr. Friedrich, obviously, as you know, I wasn't party to the discussions to which you've just alluded at that stage, and therefore I can't even confirm that anybody promised anybody anything of that sort in terms of the preliminary campaign in the run-up to the referendum which resulted in the vote for Brexit. We know roughly what the landscape was then. These days, the situation is really that we feel we do need to show respect for the British people. On the other hand, I would say that there have been a lot of positive, quite emotive reactions from the UK when we've said what our position is. Josef Weidenholzer and his colleagues have made very clear on behalf of 130 MEPs on a cross-party basis, including Socialists and Democrats, of course, that we want to continue working with the UK. We don't wish to muzzle you. We don't wish to tell you what to do. We feel that you are part of Europe. So we have signed this letter, many of us in the S&D, at home in Frankfurt on the Römerberg, where the Rathaus is in Frankfurt. The UK flag was flying when the vote took place on the British referendum, because the Frankfurt mayor wanted to make sure that everybody understood that Frankfurt, and more widely the whole country of Germany, didn't wish to turn this into some kind of competition and seek to benefit at the cost of the UK in any way as a result of that vote. So there have been responses of a very positive nature to some of our initiatives, and what we want to do is make sure that we understand and that everybody understands that our approach is that we belong together and that we need to find a way forward together. As to the transition period, assuming that there is one, I think that if there's a transition period, it should be, say, 1 year. This might be necessary. If it's requested, I think the European Union would think in terms of a year. But I think that we would also have to ask of the UK, as Mr Barnier has said, that they clarify their thinking and clarify their position, because we can't grant an extension without being clear where we're going. And therefore, I would think that we would be asking for some sort of majority in the House of Commons behind some particular stance, so that we could see a bit more where we were going.
If there are further questions, we can take them outside. It's now for the next group. Merci beaucoup.